Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're turning the clock back to 2005. Flip phones were all the rage, Crocs were somehow considered fashionable.
Oh, those were the days.
And South Park, well, they were about to drop an episode so controversial, it sent shockwaves through, well, pretty much everything. Celebrity, satire, maybe even alien overlords, right?
It's not every day you see those worlds collide.
Okay, so picture this. South Park, at the top of their game, totally fearless humor, decides to take on Scientology.
And we're not talking a little playful teasing here. This was the full trapped in the closet treatment, no holds barred.
Oh yeah, Tom Cruise literally refusing to come out of the closet the whole 9 yards.
And you have to remember, South Park had poked fun at religion before. Plenty of times. But this was different. They weren't just, making fun of beliefs. This time they were calling out celebrity Scientologists by name.
Direct shots fired. It was like they chucked a grenade into a powder keg. Everyone was waiting to see who'd get caught in the blast.
Right. Total chaos.
But there was one big question on everyone's mind. Did Isaac Hayes, the voice of Chef, a devout Scientologist himself, really quit over a cartoon?
I mean, his statement was kind of vague, talked about intolerance and bigotry, all that, but it felt like there was more to the story,
Totally. And that's where things get really interesting because of get this, a recently unearthed internal Scientology memo.
Juicy.
It's like we're getting a peek behind the curtain, seeing exactly what went down after that episode aired. So, what's the scoop? What does it say? Who wrote this thing?
Okay, get this. The memo was written by none other than Mike Rinder, former bigwig in Scientology.
Wow, okay.
And are you ready for the real kicker? He wrote it just one day after that South Park episode aired. Talk about a quick reaction.
They were scrambling over there at Scientology HQ. What were they so freaked out about?
Well, the memo confirms that Isaac Hayes was, to put it mildly, furious about the episode.
So the rumors were true.
Oh yeah, he felt personally attacked. According to the memo, his immediate reaction, right off the bat, was to quit South Park.
So he was really ready to walk away, just like that. But, I mean, I kind of get it. It's a cartoon, but having your beliefs, something you hold sacred, put on blast like that, it's gotta sting.
Oh, absolutely. But here's where things get even more, shall we say, interesting. Scientology, they had a plan. And it wasn't just about letting Isaac Hayes, bow out gracefully. They saw this as an opportunity.
Okay, now you've got my attention. What were they cooking up?
They were going full-on damage control. But more than that, they wanted to leverage this whole thing, turn it to their advantage, control the narrative, silence those pesky critics, protect the image of Scientology at all costs.
So it wasn't just about Isaac Hayes and his feelings. This was Scientology as an organization, throwing their weight around.
Exactly. And they had a whole multi-layered strategy to pull it off. For starters, they wanted to use Isaac Hayes, his star power, to pressure Comedy Central, make them pull the episode.
So they were going straight to the top, trying to make the whole thing disappear.
Falls. Right. And it gets wilder. They also decided to go after Mark Ebner, the journalist who consulted on the South Park episode.
Hold up, who's Mark Ebner and why was he in Scientology's crosshairs?
Well, Ebner, he had a history with Scientology. And not a good one from their perspective. He'd written a ton about them, even went undercover at one point.
Whoa. So basically, he was public enemy #1 for them.
Pretty much.
So they wanted to take him down. But how do you discredit a journalist, especially one who's already pretty critical of you? Seems risky, even for Scientology.
Risky, sure, but they had a plan. They were going to use what they call a third-party strategy.
A third-party strategy. Okay, you're going to have to break that down for me.
Okay, so imagine two kids on a playground arguing. Then another kid comes up, starts whispering to each of them, making up lies, turning them against each other. That's the third party.
Creating chaos, sowing discords, stirring the pot. Gotcha.
Right. And in this case, Scientology wanted to make Mark Ebner look like that meddling kid, that third party.
So they're saying he's the one with an axe to grind. He's the one feeding false information to South Park.
Exactly. Flipping the script, making themselves out to be the victims. Classic. They even wanted Isaac Hayes to publicly confront Ebner.
Oh, no. Using him as a pawn in their game.
It's messed up. They actually drafted language for Hayes to use, making it seem like this whole South Park thing was just Ebner's personal vendetta.
Wow, so calculated. But hold on. If they were so worried about bad press, wouldn't a public confrontation make things 1,000,000 times worse?
You'd think so, right? But they were so fixated on controlling the narrative, it's like they didn't even consider the blowback, and it gets even weirder.
Don't stop now, you're killing me. What else did they have up their sleeves?
Remember how I said their plan was multi-layered? Well, besides using Isaac Hayes and trying to discredit Ebner, they also decided to go straight for the jugular. They wanted to kill the Trapped in the Closet episode, like, completely.
No more reruns, no more royalties, no more South Park mocking Scientology. Ambitious. How did they plan to pull that off?
They were coming after Comedy Central's parent company, Viacom. They even wrote letters to Viacom execs claiming Ebner had manipulated everyone, that the episode was full of inaccuracies, all that.
Inaccuracies, right?
Yeah.
I bet those were the parts that hit a little too close to home.
Bingo. They even tried to dig up dirt on Ebner, launched a whole investigation into his past. They were desperate to find something, anything to discredit him.
Hold up, a whole investigation for a cartoon. That seems a tad extreme, don't you think?
Extreme, sure. But for Scientology back then, totally on brand. Remember, this was 2005. Scientology, they had a reputation for being, well, secretive and litigious, to say the least. They weren't afraid to use whatever tactics they could to silence their critics.
So they had this whole master plan, right? Make the South Park episode disappear, discredit anyone who even looked at them funny. Did it work? I'm guessing, based on the fact that we're still talking about this whole thing, probably not.
You would be correct. In fact, you could say it blew up in their faces, big time.
Karma's a dish best served with a side of Kenny, am I right? But
Yep.
seriously, tell me what happened.
Remember the Streisand effect?
Of course.
This is like the ultimate example. Scientology trying to bury the South Park episode just made it more famous.
I could see that.
It became
Yeah,
iconic, one of their most popular episodes, even got nominated for an Emmy.
Oh, the irony. It's beautiful, really.
Yeah.
Trying to silence a show that's practically famous for being outrageous, they just ended up giving it a bigger platform.
Yeah, talk about an own goal. And, you know, in the midst of all this, there's Isaac Hayes, stuck in the middle. He did leave South Park, of course.
Right.
But to this day, nobody knows for sure how much of that was his choice, his own feelings, and how much was pressure from Scientology.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's like we have this memo, lays out their strategy pretty clearly.
Right.
But then there's Isaac Hayes, you know, a grown man, a celebrity with his own mind, his own agency.
Absolutely. And tragically, Hayes suffered a stroke later on, so we can't even ask him know for sure what he was thinking at the time.
That's true.
It's a good reminder that even with something as revealing as this memo, we're still just getting a tiny glimpse of a much bigger picture.
It's like trying to put together a puzzle, but half the pieces are missing. So we may never have the full story. But even just with this piece of the puzzle, what can we learn from all this?
That's the real question, isn't it? This isn't just about a cartoon or celebrities behaving badly. This is about satire, you know? Its power to start conversations, even the ones that make us uncomfortable.
And the influence that, let's face it, some organizations have over their members, especially when it comes to things like faith and public image.
Exactly. It reminds us to, you know, think critically. Don't just accept everything you see or hear. There are always multiple sides to every story.
Well said. This deep dive into the whole South Park Scientology thing, it's been wild. We've gone from cartoons to secret memos to, like, the nature of faith and satire. It's amazing what you can find when you start digging. So until next time, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and remember, sometimes the most unexpected places hold the most fascinating stories.